We have our decarbonisation roadmap, which we evaluate on a monthly basis, just to see where we are with regards to our CII. And then we can implement KPIs to reduce that CII by doing things like reducing speed, looking at operational efficiencies, and how we can improve on that. And then each month we measure that to see how much reduction we've got on our CII footprint.
Okay. And what's sort of the appetite in the industry for changing to alternative fuels to diesel?
Yeah, I think everybody we're at a crossroads. Which way do we go? Do we go left, or do we go right, or do we go centre? And I think that's all going to be driven on availability of the fuel that's going to meet the requirements. So if you go to one location, it might be this particular type of fuel. You go to another location, it might be that particular type of fuel. So it may mean that in your fleet worldwide, if you're an international company, that you may have tugs operating one part that have a particular fuel, tugs in another part that will have another particular fuel, and you may have to have two levels of management for those two processes.
And how do you see the industry going forward? And what do you think are the challenges that need to be faced?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's been a slow transition. If we go back to 2011, even further back to 2008, when IMO set out on the roadmap for decarbonisation, I think it's going to start really slowly, because if you look at the world fleet at the moment and look at how many vessels are operating with decarbonisation fuel, it's less than 1%, I think, but it will gather momentum at some point. So will that be pushed by legislation? Will that be pushed by introduction of carbon tax? But it will gather momentum. When that's going to happen, I'm not so sure, but it will happen at some point, because there has to be that motivation to push us forward. So when that does happen, we've got to be ready. So it's really good now to start looking at what's available to you, looking at the industry, looking at what we have to do, looking at our suppliers and how we're going to put all that together.
And a tug owner and operator has to consider other aspects, such as the crew. How do you see training progressing in all this?
That's another big challenge for us, because if we look at the IDF code, it's very clear on what the SDW requirements are, advanced and basic training. But if you look at the advanced training, it's very clear that it wants you need to have somebody with a certificate of proficiency. But to get that certificate of proficiency, you have to do at least 3 bunkering operations with that particular fuel. Now, it may be that you can do 2 simulation and one real operation, but if you don't have that within your fleet already, how do you do it? How do you go outside of your organization to get that competency levels to be able to issue the certificate of proficiencies? The other aspect, of course, is the chief engineers on board. They're going to be challenged with regards to their qualifications. So we're going to have to look at that level of competency to ensure that they can then deliver the required engineering to meet the requirements of the fuel that's being used.